Welcome to We Need to Talk with Tony Lindsay. I'm your host, Tony Lindsay. As you see, I'm spending a lot more time over here on Rumble lately. You guys are going to be seeing me over here a lot more because I've pretty much been banned on other social media platforms. And my priority right now is getting the word out in a way that somewhat evades the censorship that we've been facing. And coincidentally, that's the topic of today's conversation: censorship. Now, we understand it's a polarizing conversation around the Kamala Harris versus uh, Donald Trump, and a lot of people are emotionally invested in this election. We see a lot of rhetoric that is dividing friendships, it's dividing families. We see so much contention, so much vitriol amongst the people. And throughout all of this, there's a certain group of folks who continue to benefit from the division. And what I hope to do with this episode here is just to enlighten people to the reality of what it is you may be voting for. Because a lot of us, because we're so invested in emotional aspects of this election, we're not looking at the logical, very real consequences that we may face. And so, what I want to do with this episode is I just want to kind of walk you through a couple of things, because I noticed I'm seeing certain conversations now coming up. Like, we're like 34 days away from the election, and the important topics that I believe should have been at the top of the conversation, the top of the discourse, are just now somewhat entering. And it's only really due to some of the more famous folks, the more celebrity status people who have decided to talk about it. And that's another problem that we have. We do not invest enough interest in these situations until someone famous talks about it. We got to get out of that. And we have to do better, folks. So I'm just want to show you a couple of things, since everyone's so invested in the celebrities and what they have to say, and folks like myself and others, like, we're silenced. Our voices tend to be the voices that have been talking about the most important issues, yet it continuously gets overlooked because we have a mainstream media that ignores the voices and the sentiments and the concerns of the masses. So we got to do better. Hey everybody. Yeah, I see you guys in the chat. I appreciate you. I'm not going to be on here very long, but I just want to have like a one-on-one conversation, well, one on many conversation with you guys. And it's a lot. I'm really concerned about it because, I've had family members who have like cursed me out, told me off publicly, simply because of my criticism of the Democratic Party. And that's a problem. That's a serious problem. So, yes, how you doing? Biden gave another 2.4 billion. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I want to go through just some of these concerns that I think that we all should be paying attention to. And being that, these famous folks decided to talk about it, great. Maybe now I can get some people to focus because the famous people decided to talk about it. So uh, I'm going to just start here and then I'm going to go down the line. All right. So we can start here. Hopefully you guys have, yep, the volume's up. Here we go.
We have platforms where that stuff is just free, where you can just say whatever you want, say whatever you think about anything, which really X and Rumble are the only places that I know of that you could really do that right now.
Have you had any problem on audio at all?
No.
Good.
No.
Good. I haven't either.
It's audio is like they're leaving that alone for now. I think it's probably because it's not as easily shared. Right?
That's what's coming next.
Yeah.
It is coming next because a lot of folks don't even realize that George Soros, or his family, because he's really sick, but George Soros has just purchased, I think, about 227 radio stations. Many of those radio stations are target the Black community. People don't understand what propaganda is. So you don't have to be censored in order to be programmed. We're facing a regime where these people are taking over all of the media that is providing you with your information. So you really won't even have to be censored when the information that you are presented with is so limited, because whoever controls your access to information, they're going to control you in all of your decisions. So, but let's continue.
Probably. I mean, all they would have to do is just put images of you and images of me, and then have our audio and upload that as a video, and then maybe they would start coming after audio.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I hope, I just hope this shit starts to turn around.
I do too, but I don't think it turns around if Kamala Harris gets into office. I think they clamp down more. I think the same stuff that they were trying to do with Twitter, they'll try to do with something else, with other things. They've already openly discussed it. She's openly discussed that the same rules have to apply to Facebook, they have to apply to Twitter, and that Elon Musk could lose his privileges. And there's so many wild things that they're saying.
Elon Musk can lose his privileges. I don't think people understand, the gravity of the statement that Kamala Harris is making when she talks about Elon Musk needing to lose his privileges. How do you, what privileges is she speaking of that Elon Musk needs to lose? What, his right to speak, his right to own a company, his right to, own a platform that provides people the opportunity to share their points of view? I mean, how do we get to a place where we are now afraid of words? We are now calling for our government to protect us from words. That's what we're doing right now. And so I figured, since Joe Rogan is talking about it, maybe some people are going to pay attention to it. But, let's see, what did Kamala have to say?
He has lost his privileges, and it should be taken down. And the bottom line is that you can't say that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation. And that has to stop.
Without any level of oversight and regulation. Oversight and regulation. They want to regulate your speech. They want, and it's interesting language when she talks about oversight. Now, if you remember, during COVID-19, they were, during this so-called pandemic, they were hauling in the heads of these social media companies like Mark Zuckerberg, putting them in front of Congress. And if you guys remember, they were threatening to take away their Section 230 protection, right? That's what kind of holds them harmless from being sued. When they take away their Section 230 protection as social media platforms, what that does is it opens them up to lawsuits, all types of frivolous lawsuits that will come as a result of the speech that they're allowing people to exercise on their platforms. Social media, I've said this for a long time, social media has become the public square. It's the public square. This is where everyone is talking. This is where everyone engages in conversation. And we've seen this government, the American government, especially on the left, they have been relentless in trying to regulate it and control it. Why do they want to regulate your access to information? Why do they want to regulate conversation? Why do they want us not speaking to each other without them overseeing that? Why are our constitutionally protected rights now somehow conditional? Why are they now a privilege? You have these people describing our unequivocal, incontrovertible rights as being a privilege. No. My right to free speech is not a privilege. It is my right. It is a human right. And if someone can take away your right to speak, what freedom do you have? And what is the next area? And the thing that's funny is, while they're calling for the right to take away your right to speak, they're already taking away your right to think through the education system, through all of the media indoctrination and the lies that they are feeding to you. People don't understand this. But let's continue, because I want you guys to see all of the things that we are supporting in the Democrat Party.
We are only at the beginning of understanding the whole iceberg here. What the Russians started doing in 2015 and 2016, what they continued doing, they've gotten more sophisticated. They aren't even pretending anymore. Their international news operation, Russia Today, RT, is an arm of the Russian government. And
okay, we're already hearing all of the Cold War nonsense. Russia, 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 Russia. Like, why is Hillary Clinton even still a thing at this point? We all know who Hillary Clinton is. We know that Hillary Clinton, she lied about the whole Russiagate nonsense. Did anyone read the Durham report? Most people don't even know what the Durham report is, the special prosecutor. No one knows about this. No one knows that the whole Steele dossier was a bunch of bullshit that was made up. No one understands that no one knows about the 17 times the FBI lied in order to get the FISA warrant to spy on Donald Trump's campaign. This whole Russia thing was nothing more than a hoax. And they used that as an excuse to deny Hillary Clinton's loss in the election. What, don't y'all remember? Russia hacked the election. Do we not remember that? They talk about Donald Trump tried to overthrow the government. He's an election denier. All of this. They spent the whole 4 years of his presidency calling him an illegitimate president. Now, does that mean that and here's the funny thing. I hate having to defend Donald Trump, because there are things about Donald Trump that I think, yeah, he needs to do way better at. You understand what I'm saying? Because personally, I don't think we have the greatest choices all around. I don't think we have had that for a very long time. But in this moment, I believe Donald Trump is the best chance that we have. And it sounds so weird to say it, but to get back to some sense of sanity and freedom in this country. Because the guy that they've been painting as the bad guy all of this time, guess what? He's the only one that is fighting for policies that will preserve your freedom, your rights. And the Democrats are openly calling for your rights to be taken away from you. So what? Because they shine the dangly keys in front of you and say, hey, let me give you some free stuff, folks. That's supposed to make me want to go with the Democrats when they're responsible for destroying the economy, where people can't even afford groceries. Our savings is finished. Your savings are depleted. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. Like, bro, like, what are we talking about? They're talking about how inflation is down, but yet the price of food is still double. I don't understand this. What is wrong with this country? Is this the dumbing down of America that we've been talking about for so many years? How is it that people like Hillary Clinton are still a thing? But let's continue.
Arm of its intelligence operation. It's basically an extension of their spying efforts. They are using Americans, both those who are witting and willing, and those who are unwitting, and are just so surprised. They're getting, $400,000 a week or $100,000 a podcast to parrot Kremlin propaganda.
What about the people who are getting paid tens of thousands of dollars on social media right now to parrot the same talking points that you're using, Miss Clinton? What about all of these Democrat shills who are being hired by these third-party organizations that are connected to the Democrat Party that are out here all over these social media platforms, TikTok being the most prevalent, where they are spreading nothing but Democrat Party lies and propaganda? They're still talking about Project 2025, which has been debunked 5 billion times. And we're going to debunk that again on Friday, but we're going to do it thoroughly. What about these people who are still going around trying to appeal to people's feelings by saying, well, Donald Trump, he says he's going to, what he said, it's going to be a bloodbath in the country, taking his words out of context when he's talking about the auto industry. Like, it's unfathomable to me how people can continue to fall for this. They're still saying that, oh, hold on. And I need y'all to see this. I just got flagged on TikTok for a violation. Your live is flagged for civic and election integrity. Repeated violations. And this is what I mean. It's so, oh, this is amazing. I want y'all to see it. Look, this is in real time. Let's see. Damn, you can't see it this close, but you see the red thing. I don't want to take this thing out of focus. But yeah, so I'm streaming on TikTok live right now while I'm doing this, and TikTok has already just flagged it. So let me end this right here. Sorry, guys. You guys can go follow me over at Rumble. Tony, we need to talk with Tony Lindsay. I'll see y'all over there. Perfect example. Perfect example. This is what they do. You cannot tell the truth on social media. Why? Because the Biden-Harris administration is currently censoring Americans using these big tech platforms as proxies. In fact, they've used coercion and intimidation and threats, like the taking away their Section 230 protection, as I spoke about before, all to shut you up, all to shut people like me up. You don't get in trouble for telling lies on social media. You get punished for telling the truth. That's it. So anyway, back to this warmonger, liar, Hillary Clinton.
And we know from what even Republicans have said, the chairs of the Intelligence Committee and the, Foreign Affairs Committee and other Republicans who are currently in office have said that Republicans go to the floor of the Congress and they parrot Russian talking points. So I think it's important to indict the Russians, just as Mueller indicted a lot of Russians who were engaged in direct election interference and boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are.
So it was Russians who boosted Trump. Had nothing to do with the message that he was espousing that so many Americans related to. Listen, Donald Trump was boosted the same way Bernie Sanders was boosted. I was an ardent Bernie supporter. I was a Bernie bro, a Bernie Sanders supporter, not because he was spewing hate or Russian propaganda, which Hillary Clinton actually accused Bernie of at one point, but because Bernie Sanders, just like Donald Trump, was a populist candidate. Do you all understand what that means? When you're a populist candidate, you're speaking to the sentiment of the population. You're speaking to the concerns and the anger, all of the needs that have gone so long unaddressed in this government as it pertains to its people. So they tapped into something. Both Trump and Bernie. I used to say they were like on the opposite side of like the spectrum. Like one was on the extreme right, one was on the extreme left. But they tapped into something. They both tapped into the sentiment of the forgotten people in this country. They tapped into those who are unheard. And that presents the greatest danger to corrupt people like Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the entire Democrat Party. Does that exonerate Republicans from their corruption? No, not at all. But the benefit of being objective is being able to identify the imbalance in danger that we are currently facing. Objectivity does not require neutrality. This is something that I always say. You know, most times when you point out the ills of the Democratic Party, someone will say, yeah, but Republicans do it too. The same thing when you point out something that the Republicans are doing. Oh, but yeah, you know, the Democrats do it too. See, that's the shared blame game. That's how they try to take you off your square and trivialize the conversation. Because if you can always make it about, well, both sides, remember when y'all were talking about with Donald Trump with the both sides argument, whenever you make it about both sides, it neutralizes the argument on either side. And where does it get us? Nowhere. So the benefit of being objective is being able to identify when there is a notable imbalance between powers, between actors in this situation. And I am saying that there is a clear imbalance in the way that Democrats are actively going against your constitutionally protected rights in this moment, folks. Republicans are the lesser evil. Republicans are the lesser evil. And I would dare to say this. I'm voting for Trump, but I'm not voting for Donald Trump because he's a Republican. I'm voting for Donald Trump because he is an anti-establishment candidate. And this is a man who came from the establishment. The man is a freaking billionaire. But you know what I realize? Being that he is a billionaire, being that he is someone who participated in that swamp, Donald Trump knows all of the players. He knows how all of them lack integrity and morals. And I think that's why he deals with them in such a way where he doesn't even respect them, because these are the same people that he was putting donations in their pockets. That's why when he was debating with Hillary Clinton, he was like, yeah, please, if you don't like it, the tax code, change the tax code. But guess what? You won't. You won't. Because you're protecting people like me. That's what you've been doing. So obviously I'm going to benefit from the tax code. And another thing, Donald Trump just can't be bought. That man is nearing the end of his life. And no matter what you say, whether you like Trump or not, you cannot argue against the obvious truth that the man loves this country. Whatever it means to him, whatever the United States has been for him, he loves it and he is fighting for this country. And we need to learn that when we're voting, when we're engaging in our civic responsibility, in our politics, you have to vote and act based upon your political interests, not your feelings. Look at the policies. Get out of your feelings. Look at the policies. But let's continue with Miss Clinton.
Are engaged in this kind of propaganda, and whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence, because the Russians are unlikely, except in a very few cases, criminally charged.
Hold on, listen to what she just said.
Engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence, because the Russians are unlikely, except in a very few cases.
So she's saying that people who spew what she's calling propaganda should be civilly and in some cases criminally charged. Do you know what she's saying? You know what she's saying? On its face, what she's saying is people who are saying things that aren't true should go to jail. Who decides what's true and what's not true? Hillary Clinton, what is she calling for the government to be the arbiter of truth? The same government that told you that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? Who the same folks who told you that you had to wear masks in order to remain safe? The same folks who told you, hey, don't worry, take the jab. It's completely safe and efficient, and you won't transmit it to anyone else. Who gets to decide what the truth is? Do we not see what we are facing here? This is how they usher in softly and quietly authoritarianism, fascism. Is this something that we're ready to vote for, ready to invest in? Why? Is it because the things that you hear that are inconvenient to your narrative, you just need it to stop? You just need it to stop. So you want your government to come in and save you from the evil, big, bad people who are saying mean things to you so that they can protect you. The easiest way to get someone to give up their freedom is under the guise of protection. The easiest way to have someone comply is by scaring the shit out of them. So what do you think the Democrat Party is doing when they keep telling you about how Donald Trump is this Hitlerian figure, how there will be no democracy, no more elections after Donald Trump gets in office? Meanwhile, the Democrats are calling the Supreme Court of the United States an illegitimate institution. They're calling for term limits on Supreme Court justices while not mentioning a word about term limits in Congress. You have this cabal of people who are preserving their own interests, and they're basically throwing tantrums whenever there's a decision that doesn't go in their favor. So what they want to do is capture every single branch of government, which yields to an end result of the American people not having a choice. Is that what you want? Is this the dystopia that you all want? But you don't believe that? Let's listen to John Kerry, because it's interesting to me how all of these folks are so invested in shutting people up.
And I think the dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today. You can't, there's no, the referees we used to have to determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact, are kind of, been eviscerated to a certain degree.
The referees we used to have to determine what was a fact and what isn't a fact. Who were those referees? Who were those referees? Ask yourselves that, folks. Who were the arbiters of truth? I can tell you who the gatekeepers were. I can tell you who the people who stood at the gate to even protect the population by holding our elected officials accountable, by questioning them, by challenging them. Journalists used to have that responsibility. They were supposed to be the guardrails to hold the state accountable. But now they're nothing more than stenographers for the state. They're teleprompters.
And people go, and then people self-select where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get in.
Listen to what he just spoke about that as a bad thing. People self-select where they go for their news and information. So this man is describing you seeking out information on your own as a bad thing. These are the people that are supporting Kamala Harris for the next president of the United States. I'm bewildered. I don't understand. I don't understand this.
Into a vicious cycle. So it's really, really hard, much harder to build consensus today than at any time in the 45, 50 years I've been involved in this. And there's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just,
Our First Amendment stands as a major block for the ability to just tell them what they can or cannot say, or tell them what they can or cannot read or listen to. That pesky First Amendment is in the way of us controlling all of your choice when it comes to information. That's what he's saying. That's what this man is saying. Do you all need to hear that again? What he just said?
who is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment,
hold on.
in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation.
So let's talk about that. People go to only one source and it's sick and it's putting out disinformation. Can we not argue that the one source that people have been going to is the Western propaganda machine that speaks in unison, that regurgitates the exact same talking points? We know that liberal media represents more than 95% of all media in this country. So what is he saying right now? Is he indicting the media that is acting as teleprompters or stenographers for the Democrat Party? Because that's what he should be. That's what he's saying. The man is talking about that pesky First Amendment getting in the way. So what's the solution, Mr. Kerry?
Our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what we need is to win the ground.
That First Amendment stands as a major block to hammering it out of existence, hammering out the information or the talking points that we don't like. You know what the solution is to misinformation, folks? Information. You know what the solution is to hate speech? Good speech. You know what the solution is to lies? The truth. Never in my life have I ever seen a person who is speaking the truth demand that a liar be silenced. Because when you're telling the truth, you actually kind of prefer that the liar speaks because you have the opportunity to correct them and to highlight all of the bullshit that they are espousing. But but let's reverse that. A liar is always going to be invested in silencing the truth. So when you see Democrats who are actively calling like rampantly for all of this censorship, shut them up, silence them, stop them from talking. We don't want them to share any of that stuff that they're saying. My instincts tells me that these are the liars, because liars will always want the truth to be silenced. And the people who are speaking the truth, they don't care about liars, because the truth that you speak will always reign over the lies that they tell. How have we lost that amount of common sense in this country?
Win the right to govern by hopefully having, winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change.
Implement change. How you going to implement
obviously,
that
there are
change?
some people in our country who are prepared to implement change in other ways.
Other ways.
And
So
that's
you're
really
questioning
dangerous.
really if democracy can survive unregulated social media.
I think democracies are very challenged right now and have not proven they can move.
This is not a democracy, folks. And I'm going to do another video later on to show you why it's a good thing that we are not a democracy. People don't understand the difference between a democracy and a republic. We are a constitutional republic. a representative republic. We are not a democracy. You don't want a democracy. A democracy is what will lead to socialism. A democracy is what will lead to communism. You know, I never understood what communism was. I used to always hear people talk about it and use it in their arguments, their talking points. And I'd be like, every time I hear that catchphrase, that trigger word communism, I just shut my brain off and walk away. But we're going to have a nice deep dive discussion on communism and what it truly means and how Kamala Harris's policies are very communist and how it will lead to the ushering in of a globalist agenda that no one is paying attention to. No one. No one even knows about the summit for the future at the UN, the so-called pandemic treaty that was adopted last week. That is a direct challenge to the sovereignty of this country. No one cares. It's like, yo, it's like Biden, like they're selling the country out. But no one knows about it. And why do most people not know about it? Because the same media that you trust that's telling you that Donald Trump, you know, said there's going to be a bloodbath, basically a massacre if he's not back in power. The ones that told you that Donald Trump promises to be a dictator when he gets into office, that same media that's lying to you. They're not the ones that you trust so much. They never told you about this. They are limiting your access to information. Anyone who controls or limits your access to information, they ultimately control you and your decisions. And don't worry, I'm almost done. I'm almost done, y'all. But I want you to hear all the folks who are talking about the dangers of free speech, the dangers of your right to share your own ideas and perspectives. Let's go to Mr. Bill Gates.
We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines,
whoa, hold on.
We should have free speech.
Whoa. What did he just say?
We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines.
Oh, what was that he slipped in there? You know, free speech is great, but if you're inciting violence and you're causing people not to take vaccines, then there's a problem. What? Are we not listening to this? One more time, just to be clear that we heard him clearly.
We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines, you know, where are those boundaries that even the U.S. Should, you know, have rules? And then if you have rules, you know, what is it? Is there some AI that encodes those rules because you have billions of activity and, you know, if you catch it a day later, the harm is done. We should have free speech.
Why the fuck is this guy still a thing? Why is this guy still a thing? Oh, that's why he's still a thing. That's why he's involved in some of the most major decisions that are implemented by our governments. I don't think people realize what's going on, bro. They don't realize what's going on. I wanted to also show you one more thing. I'm going to show you one more thing. Right? Yeah, let me show you one more thing. And this is Mr. Tim Walz, Kamala Harris's running mate, right? But then again, most of you guys are probably already heard it. Tim Walz. Let me type it in. All right, let's go straight to his wait, what is this? No, don't want that. Here we go. Here we go. Let's listen to your buddy Tim Waltz. I was looking for the longer clip. I hate it when they do it on the left and the right. When they just give you like a brief snippet of what they say, just a few seconds. I hate when they do that. I'm trying to find a longer clip because it's just as bad, no matter how long the clip is. But I can't find it. So let me at least let you guys hear this because this is from his own mouth.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Let's give that to you again.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Guess what, Mr. Waltz? There is a guarantee on free speech, on hate speech. There's a guarantee to free speech on misinformation. There's a guarantee of free speech on malinformation, disinformation, insults, all of that. Because guess what? I may not like what you have to say, but I'm always going to defend your right to say it. That's what free speech is about. It's about defending another person's right to say things, because when you call for other people to be silenced, to be censored, to have their rights taken away from them, eventually it's going to visit you. It is going to visit you. You cannot stand idly by in the face of injustice, because when you do that, you are just as guilty of committing it as the people who are doing it. And in this case, your government. So when we talk about all of this stuff, there's all of this lunacy of the Democrat Party. And by the way, I really encourage you guys to look into the case of brother Omali. I always screw up his name. Omali Yeshitela. He's the leader of the the Black Uhuru Socialist Movement, who was arrested for Russian disinformation, Russian propaganda. Remember that when the DOJ raided his home? He's 83 years old, and they arrested him for quote unquote election interference, even though when he was speaking in his protest of the Ukraine, the funding of Ukraine in the Russian-Ukraine war, there were no elections happening, but they still arrested him for that. Most of y'all don't even remember that story. A lot of folks didn't even know anything about it. Well, guess what just happened, folks? He was convicted of conspiracy to act as a Russian agent, but not guilty of acting as a Russian agent. What does that mean? You're guilty of conspiracy to act as a Russian agent, but you didn't act as a Russian agent. You know what that is? That's him sharing the same opinion of Russia. That's him calling for the liberation of Black people and also calling for the end of American imperialism across the globe, and speaking out against the funding of the Russian-Ukraine war by laundering all this money into the coffers of Voldemort Zelensky. The man was arrested for that. They're already, see, people say, oh, please, you have the right to free speech. You're being hyperbolic. They're not arresting people for utilizing their First Amendment protected right. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. Joe Biden has been censoring people through big tech for years. There was an injunction placed against him and upheld previously that basically described his actions as probably the greatest threat to free speech in modern history. But y'all don't know about it. Why? Because CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post, all of these outlets, not even the New York Times, none of them told you about it. Associated Press, NPR, they didn't tell Reuters. None of them told you about it. At what point are we going to ask ourselves, damn, Why is there so much information out here and it's being hidden from us? Why don't we know about what's going on? Is it possible that all of these people who are providing you with information are perhaps colluding and working together on a shared narrative to provide you with? Is it possible? So I'm saying all of this to say, when it comes to this election, Kamala Harris is a non-starter for me. Democrats are a non-starter for me. Why? Because I'm tired of sleeping through politics. When are you folks going to get tired of sleeping your way through politics? When are you going to get tired of standing idly by, not doing the research and informing yourselves in order to be better equipped to make a wise, informed decision? We can't keep making it. We can't keep making bad decisions and then relying on excuses for those bad decisions. And I understand we're facing a lot of misinformation, a lot of lies, a lot of gaslighting, a lot of shaming, especially Black folks, when it comes to the Black gatekeepers, the boule that are out there trying to tell you that you ain't Black because you're not supporting white liberal Democrats, which is ridiculous to me. They call Donald Trump a racist while ignoring the racism of Joe Biden. They've ignored that for the longest. They ignore the racism that is rife within the Democratic Party and their white liberal allies. You know, ever since I made a simple announcement, and it wasn't even meant to be an announcement, I just put up a little video and I was like, "Dan, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm voting for Donald Trump." Surprisingly, that video went viral, and not the reasons that I thought. Because if I were to just stay invested in what the media was telling me, I would think that I'm crazy. I actually thought I was crazy. I'm like, damn, the media is telling me he's Hitler. You know, everyone, you know, on the Democrat side, my side, where I vote, they're all telling me that this man is the greatest threat and he's a criminal and he's this, that, and the other. But then I looked at the trial. I watched the way that certain rules that applied to everyone else just no longer applied to Donald Trump. I started looking at all the lies that they were telling me and telling the American people in order to get you to jump to a conclusion without having the full information. And so I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this shit. So it went viral. But the thing is, in that viral post, I was shocked to see the overwhelmingly positive response to my post. And a lot of the folks that I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Oh, I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy. But it also came with a lot of disappointment. Why? Because there was one group of people who lambasted me on that post. And that was my own people. That was Black people. And it didn't hurt my feelings. But what it did do was it enlightened me to the state of ignorance that we have been collectively in for a very long time. Because in all of their words, what did I hear? I heard my own words that I was regurgitating and espousing for years. My own Trump derangement syndrome that brought me to act against my best interest, my community's interest, and even my children's interest every election, because I was so invested in my feelings and not the facts. We have to do better, folks, and we have to become married to the truth and divorce ourselves from emotions, from feelings. So that's the reason why I did this video today. I just want to call for you guys to let's collectively raise our political IQ. Let's do that together. And if we don't know anything, just ask. There's no harm in asking for more information. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind after being introduced to new information. That's actually a sign of strength. And anyone who dares to shame you for asking information, anyone who tries to disrespect you and tell you that you're a bad person for daring to question things, that is not a friend of yours. That is not an ally of yours. Because someone who truly cares about you and your community, they're going to always want you to be have access. They're going to always want you to have access to as much information as possible, because that's the only way that you can do things the right way. So with that, folks, I just want to say I appreciate you. I see the comment section going crazy. I'm so sorry, y'all. I've been running my mouth. But yeah, listen, thank you for joining me. Yeah, facts over feelings all day, every day. I'll be back for another episode later in the week. And don't forget to join us for Fact Check Fridays. All right, folks. So once again, like I said, we, in all the rhetoric and all the arguing, the most important thing is conversation. Barack Obama even said it. Even enemies need to talk. So just remember that, folks. No matter how bad people make you feel or how uncomfortable you are in talking to folks that don't look like you, don't think like you, or you have preconceived notions about, always remember the most important thing. No matter what your beliefs, no matter what their beliefs, at the end of the day, we all need to talk. Peace.